Monetary operations and loans and credit operations.
Monetary operations refer to the buying, selling of government securities, lending or borrowing against underlying assets as collateral, acceptance of fixed-term deposits, foreign exchange swaps, and the use of other monetary instruments of the Bangko Sentral aimed at influencing the underlying demand and supply conditions for central bank money. Monetary operations. These are the actions that the BSP doing to maintain and manage the underlying demand and supply for central bank's money. Last June 3, 2016, the BSP formally adopted the interest rate corridor system as a framework for conducting its monetary operations. The IRC is a system for guiding short-term market rates toward the BSP policy interest rate, which is the overnight reverse repurchase rate. The IRC system is expected to support the development of the Philippine capital markets by providing an enabling environment for increased money market transactions as well as promoting more active liquidity management. Overnight reverse repurchase facility. In a repurchase transaction, yung BSP bumibili siya ng government securities sa mga bangko na may intensyon at kakayahan pa nilang i-repurchase back yung mga government securities na nagre-result ng expansionary effect sa liquidity. Wherein kapag sinabi nating expansionary effect, dito nag-i-increase yung money supply that stimulates the economy and promote economic growth. While in reverse repurchase operation, yung BSP bumibili and at the same time nagtitinda siya ng securities sa mga banks, wherein yung payment ng mga banks is meron ng fixed rated yung interest at may prepared allotment dun sa payment na nagre-result ng contractionary effect sa liquidity. Ibig sabihin, nagdi-decrease yung money supply para malesen yung money for spending and investment. Ito rin is para mag-slow down yung economic growth para malabanan yung inflation. The existing RRP facility is an overnight facility and will be offered using a fixed rate and full allotment method, where individual bidders are awarded a portion of the total offer depending on their bid size. So, as we can see on the table, it presents the features of the overnight reverse repurchase facility. First is the frequency of operations. Daily or 5 days a week. Yung maturity niya naman is overnight, while the auction type is fixed rate and full allotment. Next is the auction size. Ito magbe-base kung ano yung BSP liquidity forecast. Tapos yung announcement ng auction size is same day. Then, next is the auction time. Yung mga participants, pwede na silang mag-start mag-bid ng 1:30 PM pero mag-officially open yon ng 2 PM. Well, the auction time window is 30 minutes. Next is the eligible counterparties. 80 banks with maintain existing set. Next is the type of allocation, pro-rata based on bid size. Tapos yung minimum bid amount naman is 10 million pesos. Well, the maximum bid amount is 20% of the auction size. Tapos isang beses lang sila pwede mag-bid. Tapos yung announcement din ng result is same day lang.
Issuance of BSP securities. BSP securities are one of the monetary instruments issued by the BSP for its monetary policy to monitor and control the short-term market interest rates and liquidity condition in the financial system. With the passage of Republic Act 11211, which amended RA 7653 or the new Central Bank Act, the BSP authority to issue its own debt securities as part of its instruments for regular monetary operation has been restored. Previously, ang BSP kasi ay allowed lang mag-issue ng own debt securities kapag may mga cases na extraordinary movement sa mga price levels. Also, the issuance of BSP securities complements the other short-term monetary policy tools used by the BSP to manage the liquidity in the financial system, such as term deposit facility, overnight reverse repurchase facility, overnight deposit facility, and overnight lending facility. Moreover, the issuance of BSP securities provide the BSP with greater flexibility in managing the liquidity in the financial system. particularly in the face of large structural liquidity surplus arising from capital flows or additional liquidity released from the reduction in the reserve requirement ratios of banks.
Term Deposit Facility or TDF. So, ano nga ba ang term deposit? Ang term deposit ay ang pagdideposit ng pera na may specific na maturity date. So, may sinusun silang araw para makuha o ma-withdraw nila yung mga pera nila. So, pag ang napili nila is mas matagal yung term, so mas malaki din yung makukuha nilang interest rate. Pero, pag kinuha na nila yung pera nila na wala pa, sa tamang araw o hindi pa tapos yung term, magkakaroon sila ng penalty. So now, let's talk about the Term Deposit Facility. Term Deposit Facility or TDF is a key liquidity absorption facility commonly used by Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas for liquidity management. Counterparties are asked to submit bids or volume and rate for term placements with the BSP. So they implemented this to gather excess liquidity in the financial market system and to better guide market rates. So, yung mga pera ng mga term depositor ginagamit ng BSP. So, ang trabaho ng TDF ay mag-withdraw ng malaking parte ng structural liquidity surplus from the financial system to bring market rates closer to the BSP policy rates. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas conducts auctions weekly for short-term securities, soliciting tenders from financial institutions seeking to deposit their excess cash in exchange for interest fees. So, yung auction, ginagawa nila ito once a week, every Wednesday. So, by conducting weekly term deposit auctions, where banks will bid for rights to keep money in the BSP for the short-term monetary authorities, expect that liquidity would be mopped up from the economy more efficiently. So, the BSP main task is to protect consumers' purchasing power by keeping prices stable. So, ito yung mga details para maka-participate sa auction. Frequency of operations once a week. Maturity. So, yung BSP nag-o-offer sila ng 3 tenor. Ito yung 7 days, 14 days, and 28 days. And auction type, variable rate tender, and multiple price English auction. Yung variable rate tenders, counterparties may submit bids for up to 10 different interest rate levels. In each bid, they must state the amount of money that they are willing to transact with central bank and the respective interest rate, while the multiple price auction or English auction means which each successful bidder will be allotted securities at the bid price he had offer. So, next po ay pricing. Based on bids siya. So, ang pagkakaalam ko po, nakadepende kay BSP. So, next naman po is auction size. So, it's determined by the liquidity forecast. Yung liquidity forecast po, they will identify dates that have potential to result in cash shortages that may not be covered by available sources of credit. Next po ay yung announcement of auction size. So, indicative calendar release quarterly. Auction offer release 1 week ahead. So, ay yung auction time window. So, 10 a.m. naka-open na sila. So, participants can start submitting bids at 9:30 a.m. Next ay yung eligible counterparties. Ang pwede is yung banks and non-banks with quasi-banking functions. Ang next po ay yung minimum bid amount, 10 million. Maximum bid amount, 20% of auction size per tenor. Maximum number of bids, 2 per tenor at different rates. Pre-termination, not allowed for 7 days. TDF, allowed for 14 days and 28 days after a holding period of 7 days at the appropriate price. So, last settlement. So, same day lang din siya. So, ito yung recently na auction na ginanap nila noong September 8, 2021.
Hi, I'm Robert Miguel G. Mamukod, and my topic is all about the standing liquidity facilities. But before that, let us first know the definition of standing liquidity facilities. The BSP offers standing liquidity windows to provide or absorb liquidity at the initiative of the counterparty. These standing overnight facilities are available on demand to qualified counterparties during BSP business hours. The two standing facilities that form the upper and lower bound of the corridor are set at plus-minus 50 basis points around the policy rate, or the overnight RRP rate, or the recommended retail price under the new IRC structure. Basically, standing facilities are instruments available to banks at their own initiative without restriction under normal circumstances. They consist of instruments providing and absorbing overnight liquidity. The interest rates on these instruments provide the corridor in which the money market interest rates can fluctuate. The two standing facilities are the overnight deposit facility and the overnight lending facility. The standing overnight deposit facility will absorb any residual system liquidity to prevent market interest rates from falling below the corridor. Interest rate for the overnight deposit facility is the RRP rate minus 50 basis points or 0.50 percentage point. The interest rate for the overnight deposit facility serves as a floor for the overnight interbank rate. The interbank rate is the rate of interest charged on short-term loans. Banks may borrow money from other banks to ensure that they have enough liquidity for their immediate needs, or lend money when they have excess cash on hand. On the other hand, the standing overnight lending facility provides collateralized overnight funding to BSP counterparties to clear end-of-day imbalances. Interest rate for the overnight lending facility is the RRP rate plus 50 basis points or 0.50 percentage point. The interest rate for the overnight lending facility serves as a ceiling for the overnight interbank rate. Lending facilities provide financial institutions with access to funds in order to satisfy reserve requirements using the overnight lending market. Central banks may also use lending facilities to increase liquidity over longer periods. They generally accomplish this by using term auction facilities. Here are some of the examples. Central banks use lending facilities when lending funds to banks, broker-dealers, or other financial institutions. Next example, these facilities provide financial institutions with access to funds in order to satisfy reserve requirements. Another example is they provide liquidity when needed and can involve various assets to secure a loan. Always remember that lending facilities come in the form of term securities lending facilities, treasury automated auction processing systems, or the overnight lending market. Liquidity or short-term solvency means ability of the business to pay its short-term liabilities. Inability to pay off short-term liabilities affects its credibility as well as its credit rating. Continuous default on the part of the business leads to commercial bankruptcy. Eventually, such commercial bankruptcy may lead to its sickness and dissolution. Short-term lenders and creditors of a business are very much interested to know its state of liquidity because of their financial stake. Both lack of sufficient liquidity and excess liquidity is bad for the organization.
So now let's proceed to next topic, which is the rediscounting. By the way, I am Dexter Celentino. I will discuss what rediscounting is. Rediscounting, ito ay isang special na pasilidad sa muling pagpipinansya ng mga central banks kung saan ang isang institusyong pampinansyal ay humihiram ng pera mula sa BSP gamit ang mga promissory notes at iba pang mga papeles ng pautang ng mga nanghihiram nito bilang collateral. Ang standing credit facility naman ay provided ng BSP upang matulungan ang mga bangko na ma-liquefy ang kanilang posisyon sa pamamagitan ng muling pagpipinansya ng mga pautang na naipaabot nila sa kanilang mga kliyente. Pribilehiyo ng isang kwalipikadong bangko upang makakuha ng mga pautang o advance mula sa BSP gamit ang mga eligible o karapat-dapat na papel ng mga nanghiram nito bilang mga collateral. Nangyayari ang rediscount kapag ang short-term negotiable debt instrument ay nadi-discount sa pangalawang pagkakataon. Kapag ang liquidity sa merkado ay mababa, ang mga bangko ay maaaring subukang itaas ang kapital sa pamamagitan ng rediscounting. Ang rediscount ay isang paraan din para sa mga komersyal na bangko upang makakuha ng financing mula sa isang central bank. Para mas maunawaan ang rediscounting, magbibigay ako ng halimbawa ng discount at rediscount kung paano sila i-apply. First is discount application. Nanghiram si Mr. X na 100,000 mula sa ABC Bank na may 22% na rate na diskwento. Nakatanggap lamang siya ng 78,000 dahil ang kanyang utang ay nabawasan ng 22%. Ngunit magbabayad siya ng 100,000 pesos sa pagka-maturity ng kanyang utang. Kapag nag-apply ang bangko ng ABC para sa mga pautang mula sa Bangko Sentral, sinusuportahan ng una ang aplikasyon ng pautang na may dokumento collateral na sinumite ng mga nanghiram, tulad ni Mr. X. Sa rediscount application naman, kung ipagpalagay na ang utang ng ABC Bank mula sa Bangko Sentral ay 100,000 pesos lamang sa 20%, binabawas ng Bangko Sentral ang utang at sumakatwid ang ABC Bank ay nakakakuha ng 80,000 pesos. Sa kasong ito, ang ginawang aksyon ng Bangko Sentral ay may kukonsiderang isang rediscounting. Madaming sanga ang rediscounting, pero ang pinaka-root word ng rediscount means sa part nung magpapautang, kunwari 10k, yung pinautang nila, tapos babayaran yun, diba, with tubo like 15k. Pero sasabihin nung nangutang na di niya kaya, so ibababa nila ng 12k para may tubong at least 2k. Ang gagawin pag di niya babayaran yung buong 12k, bababa nila yung to 11k para may makuha pa rin yung ng pautang or yung mga bangko. Sama tayo sa rediscounting policies. Rediscounting papers include in loan limit, the liabilities to the bank of borrowers whose papers were discounted with the Bangko Sentral shall not be deemed as having been extinguished by the rediscount. But shall be considered as still existing and shall be included in determining the SBL until such papers are paid by the borrowers. How does the rediscounting cycle go? A bank extends loans to end-user borrowers who execute credit instrument. The bank rediscount the credit instruments of its end-user borrowers with the BSP. So, the role of discounting in our monetary system. Ano nga ba ang role niya? So, ayan. Discount loans and advances which BSP is authorized to extend the banking institution shall be used to influence the volume of credit consistent with its objective of maintaining price stability.
Overdraft credit line, it is to cover shortfalls in banks' deposit accounts. So OCL or overdraft credit line is a short-term credit. For example, mag-i-issue ka ng check tapos kulang yung nasa bank deposits mo. So pwede kang mag-overdraft credit line para hindi mag-bounce yung check na i-issue mo. The next topic is emergency loans. Emergency loans are financial assistance to banking institutions to serve as temporary remedial measures to help solvent banks overcome their liquidity problems arising from causes beyond their control. Basically, central bank ang takbuhan ng mga bangko dito sa Pilipinas kapag nagkakaroon sila ng problema o kakulangan sa pera. Pero hindi basta-basta naaaprubahan yung mga nag-a-apply ng emergency loans because according to sections under 84 to 88 of Republic Act 7653, no emergency loan or advance may be granted except on a fully secured basis, and the Monetary Board may prescribe additional conditions. Dapat masiguro ng bangko na secured at may kakayahan itong magbayad. And maraming requirements ang kailangan bago pa man maaprubahan yung emergency loan. When an emergency loan or advance may be availed of, an emergency loan or advance may be granted first in periods of national and or local emergency. For example, situations involving bank runs. Ito yung kapag wini-withdraw ng mga clients yung pera nila from the bank kasi feeling nila hindi na safe yung pera nila sa bangko or feeling nila hindi na magtutuloy-tuloy yung bank operations nila. Second, during normal periods. It is for the purpose of assisting a bank in a precarious financial condition or under serious financial pressures brought about by unforeseen events. So unforeseen events means an event that we cannot predict or control, such as war, natural disasters such as flood, storm, and etc. Allowable amount of emergency loan or advance. The maximum amount of an emergency loan or advance shall be limited to the amount needed by the applicant bank and should not exceed the sum of 50% of its total deposits and deposit substitute. Kung magkano lang yung kinakailangan ng bangko, yun lang yung aaprobahan ng central bank at hindi dapat lalampas ito sa 50% ng total deposits at deposit substitute ng isang bangko. Ngayon, paano nila malalaman kung magkano yung total deposits and deposit substitute? Dadaan sila ngayon sa application procedure which is magpapas sila ng mga kinakailangang requirements para maaprubahan yung emergency loans. Like the EL form number 1 and kasama pa yung ibang documents na kinakailangan. And that ends our report. Thank you everyone. Keep safe and God bless.